Hey, welcome. If you're watching this, you are probably one frustrated home seller right now. So I welcome you to the video, 6 Reasons Homes Don't Sell. And I want to point out to you that, there aren't 100 reasons, folks. There are only about 6 reasons. If you fix those 6 problems, then you're going to be moving. So let's jump right in. I'm going to present to you the 6 reasons homes don't sell. Let's get started. First off, poor presentation. What does that mean? The first impression, when the buyer pulls up to your house, what is their first impression? That's very important. So one of the phrases we use is if you can't see it, you can't sell it. So if there are big trees in front of the house or big bushes in front of the house, people have a bad feeling about that. Next up, ridiculously clean. Think hospital. Think hotel room. When you stay at a 5-star hotel and you show up and you check out your room, you don't want it to just be clean. You want it to be ridiculously clean, and that's how your house has to be when you get ready to sell it. So what you got to do is go take a walk around the block, come back in as though you'd never been in that house before, and see it with a buyer's eyes. And see what they see. So if it's not spotless, it's going to be hard to sell. Unbelievably bright. What this means is that to give yourself the best chance, you have to have every blind open, every shade drawn, every light that has a light bulb in it, the light bulb should be on. And it shouldn't be a 40-watt bulb. It should be 60 or 100-watt bulb. All right? And we're selling the space. So you've heard about staging. What's staging? I mean, the most important thing about staging is get rid of half your stuff. Okay, and I don't mean get rid of as in a garage sale, although that's a good option. You can get a storage unit. You can store it in mom and dad's basement, but it can't be in the house. We're selling space. So the place has to look huge, and the way you make it look huge is to have the furnishings and decorating be sparse. Okay, and then neutral smell. Neutral smell, not yummy smell. We don't want it to smell like baked apple pie. You don't want it to smell like an apple orchard, none of that stuff, because buyers, trust me, I've shown hundreds of buyers' houses, and they get nervous when the place smells like candles and cinnamon and pumpkin pies and all that stuff. It needs to be neutral, all right? Poor presentation. So how you doing on that? Ask yourself the question, how am I doing on presentation? Because that's strictly up to you. I mean, you could receive bad advice from your realtor, but mostly presentation is in the seller's department. Next up, we got seller roadblock. So this happens a little more rarely, but it's difficult for agents to get showings. And what I mean by that is when I'm setting up showings for one of my buyers, let's say it's Friday night, it's 10 o'clock, I'm setting up showings for Saturday afternoon. 9 out of the 10 houses, I'm going to be able to set up online. I'm going to click a button and it's going to say, set up showing. And I do that all through an automated system. And then there's always the one guy who wants to personally set up all his showings. So do you think I'm going to call that guy at 10 o'clock on a Friday night? Probably not going to happen. I'm just going to skip the house for the next day because he's making it difficult for agents to show. So make sure you ask your agent if it's easy, if they're using showing time is the system. Okay? Uncooperative sellers. I just tried to show a house out by Carroll High School. The agent was ready to pull their hair out. She said that at least 3 out of 5 showings requests, the seller doesn't allow the people to see the house. So obviously, if you're not letting people in the house, that's not a realtor problem. That's a seller problem. So cut that out. All right, next, lock and key issues. It's just awkward, folks. When I come up to a house, and this happens shockingly often, when you have a hard time, the key, like the deadbolt, is different than the handset key, so you got to fumble around, or the lock, you got to jigger it a certain way. Don't do that. Get a locksmith, get the thing working right so they have a good first impression walking in. All right. Next up, lack of professional photography, my own personal pet peeve, and I'm going to tell you this, if the realtor showed up with an iPhone and just snapped some pictures, I mean, come on, seriously, people, do you think go out to the Mercedes website or Lexus website. They're selling $40,000 to $100,000 automobiles. They have spectacular photos. What makes us think we're selling a $250,000 house that we can snap pictures with an iPhone? I mean, it's just It's just ludicrous. So if you don't have professional photography, you're doing yourself a huge disservice. 90% of first showings, 9 out of 10 people that will possibly buy your house are going to see your house online first. If the pictures are bad, they're not going to come look. So it is absolutely critical. It's expensive, you know. When I got my camera, it was $2,000, $2,000. But you know what? Even if you spend the $2,000, you still know how to take photos. So I have to take class from a professional photographer to figure out how to do, for example, 5 exposure HDR bracketing. Now that probably doesn't mean anything to you, but what that does is when you see a picture, the room is nice and bright, and also you can see outside. So the windows aren't all blown out and the outside is all dark, or the inside is all bright and the outside is all dark. An HDR 5 exposure blend will allow you to see both the inside and the outside. So it's a lack of knowledge, but it's a huge disservice if the photos do not look extremely good. Now we're getting, that was the realtor's job, obviously. It's not your job to take pictures. This is also the realtor's job. Lack of marketing exposure. That's what you're hiring a realtor to do, is get your house seen. So what would lack of exposure look like? Again, 90% of first showings are online. So you got to have the house well exposed online. And what every realtor says is that they're going to put you on 100 websites. Well, guess what? As soon as every single realtor in town puts your house on the MLS, the multiple listing service, it's automatically going to 100 websites. They don't even have any choice. We don't have a choice. We don't even have to push a button. It just automatically happens. So that's not good enough. So question, where are the eyeballs online? Where are they? Where are the people? They're on Facebook. So we got to figure a way to get your house on Facebook, and not just Facebook, but, you know, because it's one thing to, darn technology, one thing to put your house on Facebook. It's another thing altogether to get it in front of people. So if I have a business page, Team Sanderson, Moving Fort Wayne. If I just post pictures of a house on there, about 80 people will see it. Facebook's smart. They're a business. So they have you pay to promote posts and make ads. Now, if I pay and promote your house properly, the last one I did on Bethel Road, 13316 Bethel Road, 10,000 people saw that house, the virtual tour, in the first 48 hours. We got 2 offers, one slightly over full price, sold the house in 2 days because we got it in front of a ton of people through marketing exposure. Got to have a single property website, and you got to have a virtual tour. Far as I know, I'm the only realtor in town doing a true virtual tour, which is not a bunch of, a slideshow of a bunch of pictures with some music behind it, but rather an actual video walkthrough, video tour of the house. People love that. They love it. So if your agent is not doing that, might be time for a new agent. All right, let's talk about poor buyer's compensation. So let me ask you, if you're a realtor, now keep in mind, the average realtor sells 5 houses a year. That's a gross income before expenses. It's probably $12,000. So if you show 3 houses, $100,000 houses, one pays $3,500, the next one pays $3,000, the third one pays $2,500. Which one do you think the realtor is going to push? Probably the one that pays them better. Now, this is just a fact of life. You could say that shouldn't be so, but you know, our shoulds and shouldn'ts get us mixed up. This is the way the real world works. So what happens is a lot of times a seller trying to save money will beat the realtor down and say, you know, they'll get them to take, instead of 7% or 6%, maybe they'll get them to take 5 or 5.5%. And the seller mistakenly thinks that the agent that they're hiring is taking the cut. But what the agent sometimes does is they don't take the cut themselves. They pass it along to the buyer's agent. So when the buyer's agent is deciding which house to sell, they look and they see, oh, this one pays 3.5%, this one pays 3%, this guy pays 2.5%, and this one only pays 2%. Well, you're giving them a disincentive to sell your house. So make sure that if you got a discount, you get what you pay for. But if you got a discount on your commission, make darn good and well sure that it's your agent taking the discount and not the buyer's representative. Super important. That's rare. It is rare. But I can tell you, if you have your house listed and the buyer's commission is 2%, if you switch it to 3%, you're probably going to sell the house. Okay? Last thing is failure to react. And this is, unfortunately, a lot of agents, they just don't have the confidence to have this conversation. Okay? And the conversation is this. One, if it's not the other 5, I just want to point out, if it's not the other 5, it's probably this one. Okay? If you've had less than 12 showings in 60 days, your price is too high. Your price is too high if you've had less than 12 showings in 60 days. Okay? Next up, if you've had more than 12 showings in 60 days and no offer, your house is probably priced a little bit too high. A little bit too high. If you've had a dozen people, no offers, the market's hot right now, you're probably too high. The average sales price, by the way, is 97%. So people are only coming down 3%. So if you're leaving a lot of wiggle room and you're saying, I want to be priced 10% too high, I know my house is worth 200, but I want to price it at 220 because I want to have wiggle room, nobody's expecting you to come down 10%. So they will not even make an offer. But if you were at 205 and they thought your house was worth 200, they'd buy it all day long. So what I tell my clients is we cannot counter and we cannot say no to an offer that we don't receive. So we got to make sure offers come in, because my experience has been if people make an offer, they want to buy the house. So if we budge just a little bit as the seller, they're going to buy the house. Okay. And I just want to point out to you, you got to sell the house 5 times. 5 times. That doesn't mean it's going to fall through 4 times, but what it means is you have to sell it first to the buyer. Next, you got to sell it to the buyer's agent. Third, you got to sell it to the buyer's home inspector. Fourth, the buyer's appraiser. And fifth, the underwriter from the lender who reviews the appraisal. So if you happen to get some crazy fool who would pay $220 for your house that's only worth $200, you got to get past 5 people. And guess what? That doesn't happen. Ever since the meltdown in 2009, you can't sell a house for too much. And if you happen to find a cash buyer, okay, they can pay whatever they want. But, 90% of the people are not cash buyers. So unless you want to get rid of 90% of the market, you got to have it priced right. Okay? And there's information symmetry. So you're not fooling anybody. As a realtor, my job is to make sure you understand that a buyer, they have tons of information now. They know what your house sold for. They know what you paid for it. If they got a good agent, they probably know how much you owe on it. They know what your neighbor's house sold for. They know what Zillow thinks your house is worth. They know what the tax assessor says your house is worth. If all that stuff says your house is worth $200 and you're asking $220, it's not happening. So my job is to make sure my clients price the house effectively, because those first 2 weeks of when we put the house on the market, that's our best chance to get close to full price, sometimes over full price if we have it priced right, because people don't want to miss out. FOMO, fear of missing out, is called. So when the house comes right up, that's our best chance to sell it. All right, 97%, yeah, no wiggle room. You don't need wiggle room. So again, the 6 reasons, which one is stopping you from selling? Is it how you're presenting the house when people get there? Is it the roadblocks that you're creating to making that sale? Those first 2, those are seller problems. Those are not realtor problems. Those are seller problems. So if those are the 2, then fix that. You'll sell the house. Number 3 is a realtor problem. If you got bad photos, you're doing a huge disservice. If you're not being promoted on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, listings to leads, market snapshot, if you're not being exposed everywhere and paid to get in front of people, then that's a realtor problem. Compensation, that is probably a realtor problem. Unless you specifically told them, lower the buyer's agent's commission, probably a realtor problem. And last is a failure to react to what the market is telling you. The market's giving you a clear message. If your house has been up 3, 4, 5, 6 months, the market is giving you a clear message. The price is too high. There are only 6 reasons. If it's not those other 5, the price is too high. Okay? So you got 4 options going forward. The first option is just stay put. Just decide I'm not moving. Occasionally people are so frustrated that they just say, to hell with it, I'm just going to stay put. Okay, that's an option. Try it yourself. That's the next option, right? You put a for sale by owner sign out and you hope that you can do it better than your realtor did, which you might be able to. But I tell you what, there's about 140 documents and steps that need to happen along the way. And it's not easy, but some people are successful trying it themselves. The third option is to hire your present realtor. You know, if they did steps 1 through 5, then you got to adjust the price and keep your realtor. They're paid on commission, so they've done all their work except find the buyer. And if that's because the seller was prevented, then you should stick with your present realtor. But if not, if it's a marketing issue, then it's time to take a new direction. It's time, you know, it's nothing personal, Mr. Realtor, but I got to get this house sold, so I'm moving on. So that's where we'd like to come in and talk to you about what we do, show you the new digital age of marketing and real estate, and see if it's a good fit for you. I know it's super frustrating. And just for the record, if the realtor hasn't sold the house, it's frustrating for the realtor as well. We don't like that as either. We get paid on a contingency basis when the house sells, if and only if the house sells. So we don't like it either. But listen, I haven't had a house expire. In other words, the contract ends without the house being sold for years and years. And I don't plan on starting with yours. So if you're ready to get moving, if you're serious about it, give me a call. Let's work together. At least meet with me. Let me show you the digital age of marketing real estate. This isn't old days anymore. This is new online digital marketing, and I'd love to help. My name's Chris Sanderson. You can reach me at 260-414-3511. Again, 414-3511. And I look forward to talking to you soon. Good luck.